So this video is to do with the assignment which is set for Skill Star Engineering Wood, where we are designing and making, well not making actually, a push stick that could be used on a tool like the circular saw. Now the circular saw lives in a room in between Mr. Stewart's room and D5, and it's the wood prep room, and it's a locked room. You probably won't have ever been in that room, and it's unlikely you'll ever get to go in there. It's staff only, it's kept locked, and the reason is because some potentially dangerous equipment lives in it. So this is the circular saw, and in the distance you can see the planer. Now the planer thicknesser is a very dangerous piece of equipment, but this is particularly dangerous if it's used incorrectly. You need to be trained to use it, and you need to make sure that you're on a list of approved users. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate how the push stick is used, and I'm going to show you some features of the circular saw. Now before I start using the circular saw, I'm going to make sure I make myself safe, so I'm taking anything off that's around my neck, and then I'm going to up my PPE. So I've got my work coat on, and I've got nothing that's dangling that could get caught in the machine. I'm going to look at a few things that I need to look at for PPE. So this is a very noisy piece of equipment, so I've got some ear defenders. It kicks up dust and possibly ballistic particles like that could go in my eyes, so I'm going to wear some eye protection. And it also has the effect of creating sawdust that I don't want to be breathing in. Now it's COVID time at the moment, so we're all wearing face masks, but the primary reason of my face mask isn't for protecting me against dust, it's for germs, so I need to make sure that I'm using a different kind of extraction system. So all the tools in this room are connected to a centrally located dust extraction unit, and they're all joined with flexi pipe through some ducting, we call it, pipework, and they take all the dust away so I don't breathe it in. So when I start the machine, before I start running it, I'm going to turn the extraction on, and it's going to make a big loud whirring noise. So let me just run you through what I'm going to be talking about, because once the machine is running, probably likely you won't be able to hear me very well. So here is the make that we're going to be doing in Skill Star. It's the push stick, and some of you anyway have already cut the template out, and you're going to be sticking your template onto a piece of timber, and then you're going to be using a range of tools to cut it out. So these are curved lines, so we're going to be choosing carefully the machines and equipment that we use to cut them out. So let me show you what you would use a push stick for. So I'm going to put this out of the way a moment. One of the most important things in terms of this piece of equipment is what's called the PUWER regs, P-U-W-E-R, Provision and Use of Workshop Equipment Regulations. And the PUWER regs state a lot of different things to do with machines like this. So for example, the room around the machine has to be clear. You have to make sure that they're not working in a cramped condition. The machine has to be fitted with stop switches, which can enable you to turn it off with your foot normally, without the hands that you're using to use the machine. The machine has to have a rundown time, so in other words, when you start it, it stops in a certain amount of time. The machine has to be operated using a key, so only authorised users can use it. And the extraction has to be fitted, but that's a different thing. That's LEV laws, that is, local exhaust ventilation laws. So let's have a look. The saw blade itself, right, so the saw has a circular blade to it. That's where it gets its name, the circular saw. And the circular saw drives that blade around in a kind of clockwise direction, and as it cuts down into the piece of wood that you're holding, and does a cut. It can either be a ripping cut if it's going along the grain, or it can be a cross cut if you go in across the grain. It'll do both. Now the circular saw can cut thin sheet, or it can cut fairly thick material. It's a very powerful device. And you can change the thickness by lifting the saw blade up or lowering it down. Now for safety reasons, it's always good to have as small amount of the blade visible as possible. So we use guards to hide the blade as much as possible, but there is still an element where the blade is exposed. So when we're cutting things, we try and keep our hands as far away from the blade as possible. So this is where push sticks come in useful. Now these two push sticks, you can see, have had some damage to the end of them, which is kind of what they're designed for, really. You're going to use push sticks to guide the wood that you cut through the circular saw. Not just circular saw, you can use them on lots of different saws. So there's two push sticks. This is a homemade push stick, and this is a purchased plastic push stick. But they're both designed to save your fingers, essentially, in doing these jobs. Here's a slightly different push stick, which is slightly shorter than it needs to be. This one here is an injection moulded plastic push stick, but it does exactly the same job. When you use push sticks, it's always good to have two, so that you can push across and into the machine at the same time. So there's my push sticks. Let me just show you how they're going to work then. So I'm going to put that slightly underlength one back. I'm going to get my PPE on, right? So here I go, my eye protection first of all. Nice goggles these are. And then I've got my ear defenders. So they're going to go on. The next job is to turn the extraction on. So as you see, it'll make quite a lot of noise. Okay. Okay. Next job. The key is in the machine. The power button is up. Let's turn it on with the green button. There's quite a lot of noise in the room now. And I get my push sticks. I hold them in the wood piece. Push them across. And that way I'm able to do a safe, neat cut in my wood using the circular saw. If you're interested, just to see how the cross cut works, when we do cross cuts, we tend to use what's called a slide. Slide fits in the bed. We can hold our material widthwise like this, and we're able to do a cross cut on the circular saw as well. So there, that's push sticks.